The legend of Bigfoot is one of the most well-known myths in North American folklore. There's no real answer as to where the legend of Bigfoot came from, as there are a lot of myths about creatures who have similar appearance to what we know as Bigfoot. Overall, Bigfoot can be seen as a large ape-like creature about 6 to 9 feet tall. He's said to live in wooded areas or near mountains. The creature walks on 2 hind legs, leaving behind 24-inch footprints. He is said to be covered in dark, thick fur ranging from brown to reddish in color. Many different cultures have creatures similar to Bigfoot, but they all go by different names. Some know the creature as the Yeti, which stems from myths coming from the Himalayan mountains or areas like Tibet, and some know him as Sasquatch. This name comes from the Halkomelem culture, who were some of the first people living in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. The word roughly translates to wild men. In recent times, Bigfoot has become a cultural icon for North America, garnering its own television show on Animal Planet as well as merchandise and other feature-length films. Along with the media surrounding Bigfoot, there are a few people who truly believe in not only the legend of Bigfoot, but that creatures like him exist, hence the show Finding Bigfoot, filled with firm Bigfoot chasers and believers. Even stranger, there are groups of people that believe Bigfoot has some sort of connection with UFOs and aliens. In a way, it all makes sense. The two theories garner a lot of attention from both media and firm believers. UFOs and aliens have been discussed for a much longer time than Bigfoot has, but both have such an impact in our culture. Hollywood can't get enough of alien-themed movies from E.T. to The Thing. It's been played up so much that in some ways it seems like aliens simply can't be real. In recent news, amongst everything else going on this year, documents were released confirming UFO incident reports and sightings by the US Navy, and articles about UFOs are constantly being published. There has also been evidence of a map showing the areas where there have been Bigfoot sightings over the years directly relating to UFO sightings. Maybe those conspiracy theorists may not have been so far off after all. Mysterious entities have been around for a long time and have quite an effect on culture. Many of them are attached to religions and are from a very long time ago. These entities have been called many names. We know them as demons, angels, fairies, monsters, and yes, even Bigfoot. The birth of the Mormon religion started when founder Joseph Smith had a visit with the angel Marini. Since these entities are so heavily discussed, there are people who study them to the fullest extent. John A. Keel was an American journalist and ufologist, most well known for his book Mothman Prophecies, which was adapted into a film. He wrote a lot on the topic of conspiracy theories as well as other dimensions in UFOs. Keel labels Bigfoot as an ultra-terrestrial, which are beings who are able to cross dimensions. He also found that UFO sightings tended to be found and recur in what he called window areas, which are specific geographic locations. He believed that the Earth's magnetic field is most likely a culprit for any anomalies we've seen on Earth as humans in this dimension. Keel believed that certain creatures that have been documented, such as Mothman and Bigfoot, are creatures from another world or a different dimension, hence why proving they are real is so difficult. It is odd to think that there have been so many documented Bigfoot sightings and yet no physical proof that the creature is real. In 1888, there was an interaction between some cattle ranchers and some Native Americans in Humboldt County, California. The Native Americans described 3 crazy bays, humanoid hairy men who descended from the sky from a moon or spacecraft. Then, in 1973 in Cincinnati, Ohio, Reefa Heightfield and her son experienced a flash of light beaming down from some sort of aircraft. It was described as umbrella-shaped, with a bright white light exuding from it. After following the beam, they were led to creatures with ape-like features, and before they could even conceive what was in front of them, everything vanished. After this sighting in 1973, more followed throughout the years. One in Pennsylvania, where a group of farmers saw a UFO and 3 huge furry creatures step out of it. Another UFO sighting in Wisconsin around 1974, and after a series of UFO sightings in Canada in 1976, several people saw an ape-like entity wandering around a mountainside. These stories may be coincidental, but almost 20% of all reported Bigfoot stories coincide with UFO stories. One of the biggest pieces of evidence to further this theory is what happened on July 31st, 1966 in Erie, Pennsylvania. This took place during Project Blue Book, which was when the US government investigated a number of cases involving UFOs. On the night of July 31st, 4 tourists from New York who spent their day on the beach found that their car was completely stuck in the sand. One of the members of the group called a tow truck while the rest of the group waited in the car. The police on patrol that night drove by them and asked if they needed any assistance. The group informed the police officer that help was on the way. Within half an hour, the police had circled back around and the car was still stuck. The group informed the police of something weird going on in the wooded area on the hill above them. The police and a member of the group went to investigate. Within a couple of minutes, the 2 group members left in the car began aggressively honking the horn. They reported seeing a huge humanoid figure with no face and long arms which apparently scratched their vehicle before escaping into the bushes as it passed by their car. The UFO that was witnessed that night was described as an angular craft which descended onto the beach before taking off into the wooded area. Large triangular tracks were left behind in the wooded area. When being investigated, the police came to the conclusion that they had no reasonable explanation for the UFO. The case remains unsolved to this day. The amount of large humanoid ape-like creatures seen is insane. With the amount of reports, it seems almost impossible that a creature doesn't exist. Maybe it's what John A. Keel was trying to tell us all along. Perhaps there are other dimensions, and within those dimensions are other worlds and unfathomable creatures and entities. Bigfoot and UFOs have been 2 completely separate things in mainstream media for a while now, but now more than ever they seem more related than separate. Will Bigfoot ever be found? Will there come a time when all of humanity witnesses a UFO? Will you click on one of the thumbnails on the screen to keep watching more dark and mysterious content from Insanity Collection? The mystery remains. Until next time, stay insane.